Greetings and salutations to all of you again. Welcome back to the Shoebox. And this week we're going to take another valuable step forward closer to God. Now you may notice that this time on this particular lesson, we're on session number 19. And funny enough, by the wisdom of God, not by me, when we get to 20, we'll have a full set of two tens, two complete numbers. And that 20 will bring us into the very presence of God. And that is also exciting. So by 20, this particular series of sessions will be finishing. And I'm both sad and excited, but I'm sure if we get the support of people, we will come back and do some other exciting things to help you in your spiritual walk. But this week, we've now passed and understood the menorah. We're the bearers of the light, growing out of Christ. We can see because of that light, and only because of that light, we can see the golden table, which carries the bread of the face, the bearers of the bread. We are the bearers of the bread in Christ. This is the glorified Christ, in other words, the raised Christ, and we are raised in him. We no longer are concerned for the lower patterns and the shapes of the world. Our concern is for the heavenly things, and these heavenly things have to take place within yourself. Remember, ultimately, the patterns are patterns that are pointing forward. You mustn't bring back the patterns. However, don't lose the patterns, because the purpose of the pattern is to give you instruction. And that's what I'm trying to do now, to open that instruction. But so keep the pattern sacred, but only as a pattern. Bring the pattern now to its final revelation, which is Christ Jesus, and we are in Christ, and Christ is in us, and we are in God. Keep that as the final reality. So, stepping forward now, and again, because of the light, we can see this. If there was no light there inside the tabernacle, we couldn't see the next step. And equally with yourself, if you didn't have the light within you, you couldn't see the bread of God, which is the word. And if you did not have that light, you could not make this next step forward with spiritual understanding to see what is going to take place next. Now, the first thing I'm going to do this week is start off with an illustration. There's my illustration. And you can see that's a golden altar, which is nowhere near as big as the one that's out in the outer court. And it's standing right in front of the veil. And the veil is right in front of the Ark of the Covenant. And between the cherubims on the Ark of the Covenant, there is the presence of God. So we have a veil between God and ourselves. And this is the place where the priest would stand. Now, every year at the Feast of Atonement, which is the end of the year, it's called by the Jewish Orthodox as Yom Kippur, the day Yom of Atonement, Kippur. And on that day, which they can't do anymore because they don't have a tabernacle or a temple, they don't have the sacrifices that they had, they would put the blood of the sacrifices on the tips of the horns to sanctify this piece of furniture, to make it sacred and holy. Always it was the blood that sanctified. So if you notice, when this tabernacle was built and finally ready for operation, it couldn't be used until Moses sanctified the priests by the washings, by the anointings, and they had blood placed on them personally. That was all the young priests, the sons of Aaron, and Aaron himself had blood placed on them. And then Moses ran around like a lunatic, and he put blood on the tabernacle itself and all the pieces of furniture to sanctify them. So nothing is sanctified without blood. And this is a pattern pointing to Christ, who ultimately is all these things, who anointed all these things with his own blood, because he was, as I've just said, all these things. And when that's perceived correctly, understood correctly, then this whole pattern business makes total sense. So that's where we're going now. We're stepping forward just in front of the veil, and we're going to stand before the golden altar. So the instructions for the golden altar are in the book of Exodus, where it was first constructed under the leadership of Moses, who was given the instructions by God. Remember what God told him. Make sure, Moses, no artistic licenses. Make sure you make everything according to the pattern. And this is no different. So we're going now into the book of Exodus in chapter 30. And we're going to read from verses 1 to 10. So let's go ahead and do that now. And thou shalt make an altar. Who's thou? Thou is Moses. Moses, you shall make an altar. When you see Moses, remember what I said in the last session. Every time you see thou, which is Moses, it's pointing to the final revelation, which is Christ. So Christ is going to carry out all this instruction in a far superior way than Moses is carrying out in the patterns. And I hope that makes you excited, because it makes me dance on the roof. Okay, so, and thou shalt make an altar to burn incense upon. Of shittim wood shalt thou make it. Now we know all about shittim wood. We've had it many times now. We should know that that's the humanity of Christ. Pure, strong, without corruption. But the difference in this altar is very different from the altar outside. The altar outside, point one, is not inside the tabernacle, it's outside. That's the earthly ministry of Christ. Now we're inside. We're in the resurrected, divine, glorified position of Christ now. And this humanity, the shittim wood, is no longer covered in bronze, which is our judgment, because Christ took all our judgment on his earthly ministry outside of the altar, of the tabernacle. And this particular one is going to be covered in gold, which is always the picture of divine. So let's continue reading. Thou shalt make an altar to burn incense upon, of shittim wood shalt thou make it. Remember, thou is Christ. A cubit shall be the length thereof. Remember, I told you a cubit is 18 inches, thereabouts. And a cubit, the breadth thereof. So the length is 18 inches. The width is 18 inches. Foursquare shall it be. That means it needs to be exactly square. And 2 cubits shall be the height thereof. 2 cubits is 218 inches. That's 36 inches in imperial measurement. And 36 inches in imperial measurement is 3 foot long. So it's not a very tall piece of furniture. 36, where are you? There you are. There's 36 inches. So just comes up to this height here. And that's the height. And the horns thereof shall be of the same. It's important. Why? The horns cannot be connected on to the altar. Fixed, glued, nailed, screwed, bolted. Nah, because that means it's something else. It has to be one and the same, because the horns represent the power of this altar. And this altar is Christ. So those horns symbolically represent the power of Christ going out the four corners of the altar, going out into the four corners of the world. Is it beautiful? Beautiful. And thou shalt overlay it with pure gold, divine, the top thereof and the sides thereof round about, completely all around, and the horns thereof, the horns of the altar. And thou shalt make unto it a crown of gold thereabouts. A crown. We'll look at the crown in a moment. And 2 golden rings shalt thou make to it under the crown of it. Upon 2 sides of it shalt thou make it. So we've got 2 rings on one side, 2 rings on the other side. What the rings for? They're to place the staves inside them. The staves or the rods or the poles, whatever you want to call it, they pass through the rings. Remember, rings is the eternal marriage, the divine eternal marriage. Also, with those staves and poles, we can lift it up onto the shoulders. What are we lifting up on the shoulders? We're lifting up the King in his rightful place on our shoulders when we walk from place to place. Because in the time of the Levitical priesthood, at the time of Moses, when they were moving through the Sinai and they put these things down, they took them down to move, they covered them. They were never seen from the outside. And equally, in this true and final revelation of the house of God, the tabernacle of God, this golden altar is never seen from the outside. It's only seen because of the power of the divine light which is within you. Are you able to step forward before the Holy of Holies, which is your heart? And this can take place, which is Christ in you. It's just amazing. Absolutely amazing. Okay, so 2 golden rings shall thou make to it under the crown of it, by the 2 corners thereof. Upon the 2 sides of it shall thou make it. And they shall be for places for the staves to bear it all, to carry it all with. And thou shalt make the staves of shittim wood, Christ, covered in gold, the glorified Christ, and overlay them with gold. And thou shalt put it, that's the altar of incense, before the veil. Now, this is very interesting. It's difficult for me to talk in the right place here because I don't want to jump into session 20, but it's important to tell you, I think at this stage, if you can imagine in your mind's eye, and I'm open by the power of illustration to show you this, that this altar is right in front of the curtain. And as I said to you, that curtain is right in front of the Ark of the Covenant, which is right in front of the presence of God, because God is directly above that covenant, that Ark of the Covenant, in between the cherubim. And I'm going to teach you what all that means in the next session. So we're literally, if we're coming to this place, which is a place of prayer, you're in between God and man. You're in between God and man is this location within the tabernacle. The curtain is not torn yet, and this is an important point for you to put in your top pocket. That curtain was always there, and it was kind of like saying, in my way of speaking, in George's way of communicating, it's saying, we ain't finished yet because we're only doing the patterns. And so therefore, because we're only doing patterns, you're only taking part in a school book. So therefore, if you're only taking part in the school book, this is not the university. This is not the end of the game. So that curtain is still in place at this stage when this was made, because the full and final revelation was Christ. And when he comes to fulfill all the law and all the prophets and all the Psalms and does all the work of the priest in the new priesthood, that curtain will be torn from top to bottom. We can't get through that barrier because that barrier is representing the flesh. I'm going to teach this more perfectly in session 20. And that's the barrier between man and God, the fallen flesh. And so that's in place because the types and the shadows of animal sacrifice could not have the power to correct the fault of the Garden of Eden. They were only teaching us how God is going to bring us back. So in this particular session, 19, we have the veil present. But always remember that that veil represents the flesh of Christ. And it is Christ alone who's going to break through that veil. Amen? We'll see that beautifully next time. Okay. Thou shalt put it before the veil that is by the ark of the testimony, before the mercy seat that is over the testimony, where I will meet with you. That's where God met with Moses. Moses came to the veil, and God was behind that veil, but above the mercy seat was the position of God. He said to Moses, that's where I will meet with you, and that's where I will speak with you. Now, if you're looking forward in your mind, and I hope you are, figuring all these things out, you're going to see that by the time Christ finishes all his work, we're going to be able to directly speak with God. And I'm going to show you how that actually takes place. Okay. And Aaron shall burn thereon, on that altar, the golden altar, sweet incense every morning. When he dresses the lamps, he shall burn incense on it. So first thing in the morning, Aaron, the high priest, comes inside, and before he trims the lamps and trims the wicks of the lamps, pours the oil into the lamps ready for the day's service, he burns incense in the morning on this golden altar. When Aaron lights the lamps at evening, so Aaron comes in again in the evening, he shall burn incense upon it, because it has to be a continuous, the word we use here is perpetual incense. Perpetual means continuous. Before the Lord throughout your generations. So this is a forecast of the future. It's going to continue. But unfortunately, it didn't continue when they went into Babylon, because they turned to idol worship. They lost God, and they lost all this instruction. And at the time of Titus, which I've spoke about before, when the temple was destroyed, completely pulled down, nothing left standing. All the valuable furniture that was inside this temple, which was built by Herod, it was taken to Rome. And you can see all those pieces of furniture on the Victory Arch in Rome. And with that money that he stole from the Jewish nation, he built a huge Colosseum that's still standing to this day. It's in archaeological ruins, but it's still standing. And that's how he paid for it. And he paid for victory games for the people to make himself popular, as all these leaders do. They give sweeties to the population to keep them on their side. It's still the same to this day, unfortunately. Okay, you shall offer no strange incense thereon. It makes me sad to see all these denominations mixing their own incense. The Greeks do theirs, the Russians do theirs, the Coptics do theirs, the English do theirs, Ethiopians do theirs. And it says here quite clearly, no strange incense thereon. Nor burnt sacrifice, nor meat offering, neither shall you put drink offerings thereon. This was a sacred piece of furniture only for what it was intended for. Perpetual, as I said to you, means never ending or changing, everlasting, endless, uninterrupted, ceaseless. Never happened to the patterns. But I promise you that the final revelation, which is Christ, has never ended since he started. No one has corrupted what he did. No one has replaced him. We got our own big fat ideas, but you will never replace the final truth, which is Christ. Okay. Now we're going to go to Exodus 30, 34 to 38. We're going to speak about the incense itself, which is another amazing subject to understand. And so here we go, Exodus 30, 34 to 38, it says, and the Lord said unto Moses, remember, pointing to Christ. So it's instructions to Christ as well. Take unto thee sweet spices, stacte, and onycha, and galbanum. These sweet spices with pure frankincense. So you've got the 3 plus 1, 4. Of each shall there be of like weight. That means equal proportions. And thou shalt make it, this incense, a perfume, a confection. We're going to look at confection in a moment. A confection after the art, that's the skill, of the apothecary. Tempered together, pure and holy. And again, there's a multitude of impersonations of this, which should not be, but will continue. And thou, that's Moses pointing to Christ, shall beat some of it very small. It has to be pounded in a pestle and mortar, very fine. And put it, that fine powder, before the testimony. That's before the Ark of the Covenant, in the tabernacle of the congregation, where I will meet with thee. So it's in front of God always, perpetual. It shall be unto you most holy. And as for the perfume, which thou shalt make, Moses, you'll make Christ. You shall not make to yourselves according to the composition thereof. You are not allowed to make it for your own private use. It is most holy. It shall be unto you, unto thee, holy for the Lord. It is made for the Lord. Whosoever shall make like unto that, to smell thereto, to smell it, shall even be cut off from his people. That's how serious this was. Because you're making a fake production of something that you shouldn't even be touching. Because all this stuff points to the Holy One. And the Holy One is the divine leader of us, the sacred high priest, the king. They're all his characteristics. Okay, so let's look at stacte. What is stacte? It's the sap that drips from the tapping of the wood of the balsam tree. Now, remember last session I told you about frankincense. You can't get frankincense unless you cut and bruise that particular tree, which grows in Yemen. They also grow in Amar, but the big trade nowadays comes from Yemen, all the way through Saudi Arabia, up down into Egypt and up into the Holy Lands. And in the ancient times, it was a highly prized commodity. So stacte is the same as frankincense. You have to cut the tree in order to get the resin, which is the bleeding of the tree. It's the blood of the tree, which seals itself by scabbing over the wound so that the tree doesn't become damaged. And so when Jesus was cut open, who was the shittim wood for this golden altar, he bled, and that bled this pure fragrance rising up to God, because he is the final and true revelation of that golden altar. Onycha. Now, onycha, I've done a lot of research, and at the moment, if I do, I'll let you know, I can't find the source. I do know lots of things about it, but I'll just keep the facts minimal because these facts are what I'm confident about. It's traditionally known for its comforting and soothing properties, as well as its benefits to nourish the skin. So it's an oil. Now, it's been lost in the Jewish community, which has got a kind of sadness attached to it. But don't be sad. And don't be sad for the Jews, even though I know for a fact they're still trying to build the temple again, because those patterns are finished and they're replaced by the final revelation, which is Christ. These are the qualities that are within Christ, that bled out of him. And that's what they're pointing to. So we've got finally galbanum, which is the third spice. All these are mixed with frankincense of equal portions, which is a sticky, brownish yellow resin. And resin is the same as frankincense. That's a resin. Originated in Iran in ancient times, which is now ancient Persia, now called Iran. That's where these plants originated from. But the plant is now growing in many other places. They've managed to replant it in various places around the world, and it's valued in perfumery. So it's a sticky brownish yellow resin, originated, as I said, in Iran, and galbanum has many healing properties. Can you hear this? All these qualities are a medicine for our personal healing. But George, I'm okay. Oh, okay. I used to think I was okay too, until Christ revealed to me that I was born blind, that I was born deaf, that I had leprosy, which is corruption, that I had paralysis, that I was out of my own mind, my right mind. And so I needed healing a lot. And this incense goes up with the prayer requests that we send up to God for ourselves, for our friends, for our families, for their healing. And all these characteristics of these three spices are the characteristics of Christ, the properties of Christ, the healing properties of Christ that are being sent up to the Holy Father, to the throne. Frankincense, finally, you've had that already last week, but we'll just remind ourselves that it's the resin that comes from the boswellia tree. Frankincense was a very precious spice with great significance and value in ancient times. And incidentally, many of the characteristics of these spices, including frankincense, have healing properties powerful enough to heal cancers and arthritis and skin infections and cuts and wounds. They all have the qualities for that kind of healings. And I hope you can hear the depth of this message that's concealed within those spices. It's all spiritual information. Now, it said back when we started to read this instruction in Exodus 30, 34 to 38, that it is a perfume, a confection after the art of the apothecary. Now, a lot of that is very old English, and we don't use this language today. So I brought along the meaning of the words because I know you always enjoy getting to the meat of the instruction that's hiding behind these words. So confection is the process of confecting. Confecting is a medicinal preparation. It's a work of fine or elaborate craftsmanship. It is putting together or to put together from various materials. But it says it's after this confection, this putting together of various materials which are collected from various places. This putting together is after the art, the skill of the apothecary. So there's another word we need to understand. The confection after the art of the apothecary. So confection is putting together all these sweet divine things. And the apothecary is an archaic term, a very old term for chemist and pharmacist. Now, is that starting to ring in your heart spiritually? We're putting together a medicine. The apothecary's investigation of herbal and chemical ingredients was a precursor to the modern sciences of chemistry and pharmacology. Now, the modern chemists, the root word of chemist is chemical. So they are using chemicals to heal us these days. And you see them working in their laboratories in using test tubes and Bunsen burners and see how these chemicals react against each other by measuring out carefully the different proportions. That's how a chemist gets its name. But for my comfort and spiritual understanding, in the ancient times, we didn't use chemicals because we didn't understand them. The apothecary used the natural things of God, the herbs, the plants, the trees, the fruits. They would extract the oils and the resins. And these had powerful healing properties that the man who was skilled in the art of the apothecary knew how to put certain of them together. He knew the quantities and qualities of them, and he would mix them carefully and combine them to make a healing property. And also he would combine these perfumes to make a beautiful perfume to rise up with your prayers. So when you see that perfume rising up, that's accompanying you and your prayers. So I think now we're seeing a little bit more to this golden altar than we originally thought. We thought, oh, it's just an altar of incense, nothing to learn here. Well, there's a lot of information there I gave you. And if you apply that to your spiritual journey, you'll see that it's absolutely necessary to have this special balanced mixture that's in the correct proportions going up with your prayers. And we don't have those spices now. We can make it, but we're warned of God not to, because he doesn't want that replacing again by shadows and types and patterns. He wants you to use the final revelation, which is Christ. In addition to dispensing herbs and medicine, apothecaries offered general medical advice and a range of services that are now performed by specialist practitioners. So can you see clearly here that the apothecary is the man who administers your medicine. Apothecary shops in ancient times sold ingredients and the medicines they prepared for other medical practitioners, as well as dispensing them to patients. So you can say Christ is your apothecary, your chemist, your healer, who's prepared this finely balanced. Remember when Moses is instructed by God, when thou make this, it's pointing to Christ who's made all of this for you. Is your soul in need of healing? Is your soul lost, broken? Is your soul blind, deaf? You need all this healing that you can get. And this is your healing. That should go up with your prayer. Remember that the golden altar of incense is made of shittim wood, the horns of the same piece, Christ, covered in pure gold, the glorified humanity of Christ, and you are raised in him, one and the same. I am in you, you are in me, we are in the Father. Crowned, what is crowned? It's the sovereign headdress. So this has a crown all the way around it. It's wearing the sovereign headdress. It's the glorified Christ. It's an imperial or a regal power symbol. It's a royal power or authority symbol. That's what a crown is. It stood in front of the center of the veil. Remember I told you about the veil? It's not torn until Christ. Between God and man. At the time of Moses, entrance into the Holy of Holies was not yet come. Their work was the school book and patterns of the final revelation yet to come. 2 cubits high, 36 inches, 3 foot, 1 cubit wide, 1 cubit deep, 18 inches by 18 inches square. The burning coal was taken from the brazen or bronze altar that was in the outer court. Coal only came from there, not a Zippo lighter, gas lighter, or box of matches. That's strange fire and completely not allowed. So we took the coal from here unto just before the veil, the golden altar of incense. No strange fire, and the incense was after the art made by the skill of the apothecary, the chemist. And that was given to the family of the Levites. No one else was allowed to mix it. No one else was allowed to make it. It was the secret formula of that family, which guarded that formula all their life, handed down from generation to generation. Okay, so now let's just go and see this altar in action somewhere. And we're going to start in the Gospel of Luke 1, 5 to 14. Chapter 1, verses 5 to 14. Let's see what we say here from the Gospel of the physician, Luke. There was, in the days of Herod, that's Herod the Great, who was the impostor king, made himself king. He was the king of Judea. A certain priest named Zachariah of the course of Abia, and his wife was of the daughters of Aaron, and her name was Elizabeth. That's the English translation in a minute. I'll give the Jewish one in a moment. Her name was Elizabeth. And they were both righteous before God, walking in all the commandments and ordinances, that's the rules of the Lord, blameless. And they had no child. There we go again. Remember I told you way back when we began these sessions that when you've got a woman barren, you know somebody special is coming and it's going to take place here. because Zechariah's old now and his wife's old and she's been barren all her life. They're both holy people, devout people. They didn't put a foot wrong, but she's barren. And I'm sure they're brokenhearted. But watch out, because you know something fantastic is going to happen. God is going to intervene, just like he did with Sarah. Okay. And they were both righteous before God, walking in all the commandments and ordinances of the Lord, blameless. And they had no child, because that Elizabeth was barren. And they both were now well stricken in years. They were very senior. Time for that kind of stuff finished. And it came to pass that while he executed the priest's office before God in the order of his course, they were split into groups, the priests, and they were all responsible for different jobs in the outer court. The singing, the psalm singing, to orchestrate and lead and direct all that. The sacrifices that were done outside, all the administration of the blood, and then finally the lighting of the candles, the placing of the bread on the golden table, making sure it was there before God every day, 24/7, as we say now in modern language. And equally, this was a duty. But you plucked a straw, what we called in ancient times plucking the short straw. When you get the short straw, you're the one who's going to do the job, whether it's a good job or a bad job. You get the short straw, you're going to do the job. But in this case, to get the short straw to place the incense on the golden altar was a great, huge honor for a priest to get that job. And Zechariah had got the short straw to place incense on the altar, the golden altar, inside the tabernacle, before the veil, to stand in front of God. Now, just let me give you some background here so that you know what goes on here. When that priest went inside the tabernacle and then later the temple of Solomon, he would have gone in alone, all by himself. And he would have placed the incense, that special preparation, on that coal which came from the altar outside. And that incense would have gone up into the air. And what he would have done, he would have lied down, he prostrated himself, lied down, flat down, face down, in front of that altar, which is in front of the veil, which is in front of God. He would have prostrated himself down. And he would have said his prayers for the people. And then he would come out. The incense, the beautiful fragrance would still be rising, but alone he would come out, having done that. And then he would come out to the people who were all praying in the outer court. And he would have given them a blessing from God. He would have given them a Levitical priesthood blessing. And they would have known that he had done this and that their prayers had gone before God. So it was a great honor to do that duty. And so they were all outside praying, waiting for Zechariah to come out and bless them, bless their prayers. And another thing you need to remember as well is what I've just described to you couldn't take place until all the sacrifices had been done. So all the wrongs had been put right. And now the people are waiting to see the result of all that offering and all that work and dedication, to see if they were reunited again with God. That was the all-important thing to know. So when Zechariah prostrated himself down and come out, they were waiting for that blessing. So this particular piece of scripture is well informed, and you can tell it's authentic from the way it's written, because it's written so accurately. And now I've explained that to you, it will make sense when I proceed in the scripture. Watch this. And it came to pass that while he executed the priest's office before God in the order of his course, the short straw, according to the custom of the priest's office, his lot, there it is there, the short straw, was to burn incense when he went into the temple of the Lord. Remember, alone. And the whole multitude of the people were praying without. They were praying outside. They couldn't come in. Only Zechariah could come in. At the time of incense, they were all outside praying at the time of incense. Do they know what he's going to do? They do know what he's going to do. They know he's going to burn incense in front of God. They know he's going to prostrate himself, and they know that he's going to put their petitions to God, and he's going to come out having done all that. And that's the conclusion of all this feast. And this happened every Sabbath and all the feast days. This was a big paraphernalia in those times. So when you saw that priest come out on the steps of the temple, that was a huge comfort to the people, and he would raise his hands and bless them all after their prayers. And it was a wonderful feeling to know that you'd been reunited with your Creator. And there appeared unto him an angel of the Lord standing on the right side of the altar of incense. Boom. That's changed everything. But is it connected with prayer? Yes. Why? Because Zechariah had been praying for a son all his life. His wife had been praying for a son all her life. And now standing on the right side of this altar, the golden altar, is Gabriel, the angel of God. And Gabriel means God is my strength. The messenger of God, the same angel who announced to the mother of Christ Jesus that she was going to have a baby, even though she didn't know a man. Same angel. And when Zacharias saw him, the angel, he was troubled in fear came upon him. It would you and me, yeah? If you just went in there to mind your own business and do your duty, come out and bless the people, and there's an angel standing to the right of the altar. But the angel said unto him, fear not, Zacharias, calm down, it's all right, it's all right. He says something very important that's connected with this altar. He says, for thy prayer is heard. See the altar connected with prayer? Prayer with the altar rising up with the incense. It's all connected together. And now Zechariah's prayer has been answered. He would have gone down, he would have prostrated himself. And when he got up, boom, Gabriel's there, the angel. And he says, the angel said unto him, fear not, Zechariah, for thy prayer is heard. And thy wife Elizabeth shall carry thee a son, and thou shalt call his name John. That's also incredible. You have to think about all these things. They're all incredible. Because there was nobody in Zechariah's family called John. Why would he call him John? You always hand down your name. So his son should have been called Zechariah, or somebody in the family to keep their name alive. But this angel told Zechariah he's going to call his son, that seems to be an impossibility anyway. You're going to give him a name that's got nothing to do with you. You're going to call him John. In the Hebrew language, they would have said to him, you're going to call him Yohanan. And thou shalt have joy and gladness, and many shall rejoice at his birth. John, Yohanan, means graced by God. This is going to be a special man. This is John the Baptist who's going to be born. The one who cries out, behold, the Lamb of God. He's born just a short time before Jesus. So this is amazing. But you know, Zechariah couldn't believe it. I'm not going to read anymore because it's all in here anyway. Zechariah couldn't believe this. He'd been praying all his life. Now he's told he's going to have a son. And he didn't know what to say. He was frightened. He was confused. He was blown away. And he didn't believe. He couldn't believe it. He wanted this all his life, and now he's a very old man. And so because of that, Gabriel say, okay, because you don't believe me, I'm going to make you dumb. You won't speak anymore. And so when he goes out to supposedly bless the people, he can't speak. Can you see this? All the people are outside waiting and say, what's going down? Come on, Zechariah, we've been waiting. He stands there, puts his hands up. He can't speak. And he doesn't speak anymore until his son is born. And all the family are around crying in tears. Elizabeth, his wife, has given birth. There is a boy, a son. And they ask Zechariah, what are you going to call this baby? And Zechariah's tongue had been locked. He couldn't speak to anybody. And he says, Johanan, John. They look at him in amazement. John? What's this all about? But that was the instructions that Gabriel gave him. Gabriel told him that son will be called Johanan, graced by God. All Hebrew names are significant and important. Zacharias means God remembers. God remembered his prayers. He didn't leave him, but he had to have that baby at the right time. And the right time before was just before the Christ was born, the forerunner. And that's why Zechariah never got his baby until Jesus was ready to come at the time of life. Do you remember? Father Abraham was told by the angels, at the time of life, you shall have a son. It's all tied together. It's all amazing. Elizabeth, incidentally, is Elishapha. Elishapha. In my God, I rest. In my God, I rest. Isn't that beautiful? Now, as always, I always give you something fantastic to look at in the future. So I'm going to finish with a piece from the book of Revelation, because I know all of you like to delve into Revelation. And we're going to look at Revelation 8, 3-4, and we're going to see the golden altar appear again in the book of Revelation. And I'm going to pick it up where it says in verse 3, and another angel came and stood at the altar. What altar? The golden altar. That's where he's standing. Having a golden censer. What is censers for? For incense. And there was given unto him, that angel, much incense. And it would have been according to the pattern, that he should offer it, the incense, with the prayers of all the saints upon the golden altar, which was before the throne. Remember, the throne stands in the Holy of Holies, but this is heaven. This is the final revelation, because it's the book of Revelation. This is an angel standing before that golden altar, and he's been given a big pile of incense. And it's to go to offer that incense on that golden altar, which stands before the throne of God, that rises up with all the prayers of the saints. And the smoke of the incense, which came with the prayers of the saints, ascended up before God out of the angel's hands. Hope you enjoyed that. There's a final look in the book of Revelation of this very same altar. And I think all this information, which is powerful spiritual information, if you keep it in its final position, which is the final revelation, remembering all the time and never letting go of the fact that you are the house of God. You are the temple of God, the tabernacle of God. You are the body of Christ. And you're born in the new creation. He is in you, you are in him, we are in the Father. And all this takes place within yourself. So you are now not just the bearer of light. You're not just the bearer of bread. You're the bearer of the golden incense, which is made after the art of the apothecary, which is the man who brings together all those spices and medicinal resins that are for healing, that rise up with your prayers in front of God. The golden altar is always in front of God. And that to me makes my heart leap with joy to know that this is actually taking place when you go within, always within, where you see this divine light, the uncreated light, where you're fed as a guest of God and taken care of, and you stand in the smoke of that beautiful perfume that rises up with your supplications to your Heavenly Father for yourself, for your family, for your friends. You know now that it's not alone. It's going up with beautiful fragrance within yourself. So may God continue to fill you with this light of illumination, to fill you with His love, and fill you with His life, which is eternal life. Until next time, when we come to the final session of session 20, which I'm really looking forward to, I wish you peace, which is the peace of God. And I wish that you see all this powerful instruction that, when it's comprehended, will transcend the earthly things within yourself. And you will start to locate and find your way back home. So as I said, until next time, shalom.